the ranking member of the National Security Subcommittee, Ms. Beatty. Ms. Beatty, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I like that title. To Chairman Powell, thank you for coming and being such a good colleague and friend. I have a couple questions I'm going to try to get through quickly. Chair Powell, in a press conference last month, you stated, quote, "There is a lot of spending coming into the construction pipeline, both private and public, and so that's going to support economic activity," end of quote. How do you think the strong pipeline of funding from what the Democrats put together in passing the Inflation Reduction Act, the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, and the CHIPS Science Act will do to have economic activity this year and moving forward?
So I guess I was making the point that there are a lot of sources of demand that we can rely on, even though demand has been relatively increasing at a relatively modest rate. Part of it is—
Will this help in that demand?
Yes. I mean, there is state and local governments I mentioned are about—
So would you say this is a great thing that we've done coming from the left over here?
Not for me to judge the merits of what gets done, but I'm just saying there's—
But it will contribute
there that will support economic
and support
activity.
it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume from that that's a positive. Let me go to the second question. Chairman Powell, the Federal Open Markets Committee is projecting that unemployment will increase to 4.6% by the end of the year. And those costs, as we know, won't be borne equally. If we look at the ratio from the last time unemployment was 4.6% and compare it to our numbers now, it would mean that white unemployment would go up to about 0.9, but black unemployment would go up by 2.3%. Does that sound somewhat accurate to you?
Yes.
Can you address the disparity impact with that? And before you answer, let me go to the book, and thank you that was put at our places together. You made in this book with your signature on it is stated, however, while disparities in unemployment have largely returned to pre-pandemic levels, there still remain significant disparities in absolute levels of employment across groups like African Americans and Hispanics. So can you address that?
I can. So right now, to your point, actually, African-American unemployment is, I think, 5.4%, which is just about as low as it's been since we started tracking it in 1972.
But differential from majority by—
I'm going to say, so that's 5.4, whereas the overall is 3.4, and that includes blacks, so that means for whites is well lower than that. What happens is, so there's a persistent gap between black and white unemployment, and also, when unemployment goes up quickly in a recession, it goes up much faster for African Americans. When the economy grows again, it comes down faster. So that's just that's somehow embedded in our economy. We don't really have the best thing we can do is achieve stable prices so that we can have long expansions. And what happens in those long expansions is that the labor market gets tight, sustainably tight. And we have historic lows in unemployment, including for African Americans.
Let me say thank you, and let me also, again, thank you. As you know, in the 117th, I was the chair of the D&I committee, and let the record state that you always pushed for making sure that you understood and respected that. And in that, this is very minor and certainly personal to me. In this report, maybe those who helped you author it, I would like to see the areas that talks about unemployment not under a title of special topics, but something that draws a little more attention to it as some of the others, just very minor. Last question I have. Can you tell me if the Feds is committed to working with the other agencies like the FDIC and the OCC to finalize a rule soon on CRA? Certainly that's something of great interest to many of my colleagues. So can you give us any updates on it or how the process is going or what we can expect?
Yes, so with Governor Brainerd's departure for the White House, I've asked Vice Chair Barr to take the lead in moving it forward. I would characterize it that there's essentially agreement between the three banking agencies on the changes to be made. That's all being written up and vetted, and at a certain point, members of the Board of Governors will be briefed on it, will vote on it.
Is there anything we can do to help with that?
No, I think we're hard at work on it, and it's going to take some months, but I think we're nearing we can see the airport, and we'll be landing in a few
Gentlewoman's
months.
time has expired. The
Thank you.
gentleman
You're
from
back.
Kentucky, the Chair of the Financial Institutions and Monetary Policy Subcommittee, Mr. Barr, is recognized for